Hey everybody, Pete Weintraub here, permanent weight loss specialist. Welcome to the Weight Loss by Pete podcast. This is being simulcast here live on YouTube as well as through my podcast, which you can find on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. Today we're going to go over how eating fat will actually help to make you thin. So I'm going to have to back this thing up a little bit because every Thursday I have a group called the Permanent Weight Loss Community on Facebook. I'm going to put a card so you can check out I don't know, a video about it a little bit more. Basically, it's a group on Facebook for folks who have 24 more pounds to lose. They want to either prevent or reverse a debilitating chronic condition like heart disease, various forms of cancer, type 2 diabetes, obesity, neurological conditions later in life like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia. And if you're looking to avoid weight loss surgery, if you're kind of on the cusp, but you really don't want to go down that road, many of my best success stories were clients who had weight loss surgery prior to working with me. They had then since gained all the weight that they lost through the surgery back because the surgery isn't actually a real fix. The surgery is putting a Band-Aid on the issue. It's minimizing your portion consumption when in actuality, it's not your portions, it's not your calories, it's your insulin response. It's the quality of the foods that you're eating. And if you're eating a low quality diet, you're going to see low quality results. So it's for folks like that. I'm going to have a link in the description below if you want to join us. But anyway, I do a Facebook Live video for them every Thursday. Then I simulcast it here on YouTube and through my podcast. I had a great question. Let me share it with you if you're watching here. If you're not watching, I'm just going to read the question to you. So just give me 1 second. So it was asked how to break through a plateau. So after getting a little more clarification, you can see the 3 more replies here. She said that she was having trouble eating a low carb diet. She was counting calories and macros and all that, but she is having trouble going low carb because she was a vegetarian. She couldn't consume enough protein, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So basically, and I'm going to put a card to that video here above as well, which I did last week, so you can see my answer in real time. But moral of the story that I told her was that she needed to do 2 things nutritionally if she was stuck at a plateau. She needed to decrease her net carb intake. And what are net carbs? Net carbs, very simply, if you're using an app to track your nutrition like MyFitnessPal, it's simply looking at your total carbohydrate intake for the day and subtracting it from your fiber intake. So total carbs minus fiber. In MyFitnessPal, they're literally total carbs, fiber. You can literally do a math problem right there, which is great. The one that you need is right on top of the other. So I try to keep my clients, my group members at 50 net carbs or less. And secondarily, I break things down into the following macronutrient percentages. So I'm pulling this up for you right here. If you're watching, if you're listening, I'm going to break it down. So basically what we're seeing here on the screen are 3 things. We're seeing macronutrients on the left, the daily ratios on the right. So these are percentage breakdowns of what each macronutrient should be when you're ingesting them. So fat, number 1, I recommend my clients eat anywhere from 60 to 70% of their daily intake from dietary fat. A lot of people will think I'm crazy because calorically speaking, fat has 9 calories per gram as opposed to protein or carbs, which only have 4 calories per gram for either. And then I have protein, number 2. A lot of people think protein should be number 1. Trust me, it shouldn't be. If you eat too much protein, it can have a negative impact. Protein does elicit a minor insulin response, not to the same degree that carbohydrate does, which is why I have it at 0 to 10% of your daily intake. But protein does elicit an insulin response. If you eat a ton of protein over the course of the day, you're stimulating enough insulin where you can still suffer from either weight retention or even weight gain. So I keep it at about 20 to 30%. And again, fat at 60 to 70%. So this is reminiscent of a high-fat, low-carb diet. I call it the lipolytic, which is a sciencey way of saying fat-burning diet. It's a little less extreme than the ketogenic diet. The ketogenic diet has similar ratios, but it keeps the net carbs at 25 net carbs, and it wants you to have a bare minimum of 70% of your daily intake coming from dietary fat. So that is what I have my clients and my group members do, and this is what I recommended to this group member of mine. And I got this awesome testimonial or comment, whatever you want to call it, earlier today. Let me just pull it up here. And if you can't see it, you can see she posted in my community, the permanent weight loss community. Again, you can find the description for that in the comments below, which just said she took my advice about revising her macros. She's down 3 pounds so far and closing in on that weight that she just couldn't break. She's added coconut oil to her smoothies, and she's using more olive oil in her egg white omelets. She should use the whole egg, but hey, this is still an improvement. She upped her protein and fat. She lowered her carbs substantially. She's not hungry, and she's seeing progress, and she thanked me for the suggestions. Now, I'm not doing this to toot my own horn. I'm doing this to show you that even as a vegetarian, where the vegetarians, they do have their issues getting in appropriate amounts of iron, other essential vitamins and minerals that you only tend to find in animal fat and animal protein. She has seen great results in less than a week. She posted this on a Wednesday. I gave this advice to her last Thursday. So it's been 6 days. She's lost 3 pounds in 6 days after being in a plateau for quite a while. And literally all she did, like she said, was she upped her fat content. She upped her protein a little bit because, again, as a vegetarian, she had problems getting it even into the 20 to 30% range. She's in those ranges now. She lowered her carb content. And guess what? She's seeing results. Same thing happens to every single one of my clients. When they start following those macro breakdowns, when they start limiting their net carbs to 50 net carbs or fewer per day, they'll continue to see consistent results week in, week out. Every day that passes, they'll feel a little bit better. They'll have less brain fog. They'll have more energy. They'll be able to better regulate their moves. Any inflammation in their joints will tend to lessen and sometimes even eventually go away entirely. Sorry, there's a giant bang outside. Not sure what that was. But yeah, that was essentially what was going on here. So long story short, everything boils down to insulin response. And in fact, let me see if I can pull up this infographic because it really helps to demonstrate my point about what this all entails. Just give me 1 second. I'm quickly scanning through everything. It's not here. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, I'm not able to find it. But basically, long story short, it just shows that carbohydrate intake, your insulin spikes exponentially, and then it crashes in a very short period of time. This insulin dump, basically, which is created by your pancreas, takes all the necessary carbohydrate to your cells, muscles, and tissues. The rest is stored as fat, and this is all done in a short period of time. That's why, if you've ever heard like the 5-hour energy commercials, at 2 o'clock feeling, that's why that happens. Protein, it has a slightly slower and smaller dip and then drop. So you won't tend to have the same energy drop. You won't have the same fat retention that you would if you ingest a high carb and a high carb, low fiber food, but it's still evident. And lastly, with fat, you'll see it's barely anything and it just stays steady. It keeps your blood sugars in check. That way, nothing's really being stored as fat. You're just burning that fuel slowly as energy. And then when you combine this way of eating with something like intermittent fasting, it's even more powerful because you're tapping into your fat stores and you're converting your body's preferred energy pathway. We have 2 preferred energy pathways, guys. The first one's called glucosis, and that's what most people are on. Glucosis is when we are dependent on glucose, sugar, carbohydrate, starch, to fuel our bodies. So if you're a grazer, a lot of people call themselves grazers, and a grazer is just someone who eats every few hours. They feel the need to eat or snack every few hours, even if they're not eating a lot. They're eating a lot over the course of the day, and often it's not a lot of good stuff. And the reason for that is because of that insulin pump and drop. They need to constantly do that to keep themselves going over the course of a day. Protein, again, you'll last a little bit longer if you're just eating a high protein, low carb, and low fat diet, like the traditional If It Fits Your Macros model, except If It Fits Your Macros is actually pretty high carb. I believe the breakdown is 40% carbs, 40% protein, 20% fat. It's really not an ideal ratio that you want to go into when you're looking to lose weight and simultaneously improve your health. And like I said, because there still is an insulin spike and drop just over an extended period of time and just not as drastic, you can still hang on to weight and you can still even gain weight if you eat a high protein diet for a long enough period of time. Whereas if you're eating a high fat, low carb, or a lipolytic diet, like the one I've recommended to this group member here and that I recommend to all of my clients and my group members, and it's something that I personally followed. I saw my best results. 60 of the 100 pounds that I lost after losing 40 pounds in the first 4 months, just eating less, exercising more, just like many of you, I'm sure, have tried and seen short-term results and then a plateau, then you got discouraged and you fell off. When I started eating this way, the results just kept coming. It was consistent. My body consistently changed. I saw consistent improvement across the board, not just in measurements like weight, inches, and then progress photos, but also just in my mental clarity, my regulation of moods, no brain fog, less inflammation, better flexibility. I have no idea what's going on out there. It sounds like a couple of bombs have dropped. We're expecting a snowstorm, so perhaps that's what it is. But anyway, that's really it. So guys, if you want to lose weight and you want to do it in a permanent and sustainable way, you need to eat more dietary fat. You need to lower your carbs. So again, to review, let me show this to you one more time. Now my dog is underneath the table here and he's kind of mauling me because he's scared of the loud noise. So daily ratios here, fat, 60 to 70% of your daily intake should come from fat. 20 to 30% should come from protein, 0 to 10% from carbs. And if you want to take things one step further, guys, from a carbohydrate perspective, you want to keep your net carbs. So again, if you're using a nutrition tracking app like MyFitnessPal, it's usually, you'll see total carbohydrate for the day and fiber literally right underneath it. It's just a simple math problem. You subtract total carbs, which is on top, by fiber on the bottom. That gives you your total net carbs for the day. Keep it at 50 net carbs or less. The lower, the better. And that's it. That's how you eat fat to get thin. So I hope you found this informative. So do me a favor. If you enjoyed this video or this podcast, please click the subscribe button below. I'm going to be trying to do at least 3 of these a week. I want to do more. I'm going to aim for 5. I'm going to be doing 4 this week because Monday was New Year's and we were all off. But now that we're all back in the swing of things, I'm going to look to come at you 5 days a week with information. And I hope you found this helpful. Like I said, if you want to join my free group on Facebook, it's called the Permanent Weight Loss Community. To rehash, it's for folks who have 25 or more pounds to lose. They're looking to prevent or reverse a debilitating chronic condition that 8 of the 10 deaths, top 10 death causes in this country, according to the CDC, which was recently released just this past week, were from preventable chronic conditions. So this is something that is important to just about everybody in this country, and it's something that should be important to you. And lastly, if you're looking to avoid weight loss surgery, maybe you've had it in the past and it didn't work, you've since gained all the weight back, then join us. I'll put you on the right track. You'll see information just like this, motivation, and we'll talk about a bunch of different things, not just nutrition, but mindset, fitness, health in general, and we'll get you going on the right track. So again, my name is Pete Weintraub. I'm a permanent weight loss specialist. Thanks so much for watching or listening, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.